welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to discuss today the titration for class 11th CBSE practicals, that is sodium hydroxide versus oxalic acid titration. So we'll do the practical part first, and then we'll follow it with the theory and how to write the experiment. So stay tuned. So we are going to start with this burette experiment. This is burette, and as you can see carefully, this burette is graduated. I'll explain the graduations and how to take the reading. Now we are going to first wash. This is a washed burette. If it is not, you can wash it first with normal water, soapy water, and nicely clean it with water. And now I'm going to rinse it with the material that we are supposed to pour into this. And rinsing means I will be adding a small amount of, first I'll make sure this end is closed, and now I'll be pouring small amount of sodium hydroxide solution into this, small amount of sodium hydroxide solution, and just make sure to swirl this around so that it coats the entire inner walls. The entire inner walls are coated with this solution, and then I will let the liquid out from this end so that even the nozzle is coated with the sodium hydroxide solution. And remember, the solution that we are using, for rinsing has to be discarded. And now I'll fill this sodium hydroxide solution into this burette, making sure this end is closed. Yeah. And after filling, I will remove the funnel. And now let us see how to take the reading. So we are going to note the reading. As you can see, the reading on this burette is 17.6. Is the reading of burette. We have to check the lower meniscus. Reading more clearly visible, we'll be making an anti-parallax card. How do we make an anti-parallax card? I simply take a piece of paper, fold it once, fold it twice, and then just tear it off from this closed end. And when you open this, we have our anti-parallax card ready, and I'm going to simply put it here. And now taking the reading is going to be more convenient. We can take the reading more easily with an anti-parallax card. See, the reading is more visible now. So we use an anti-parallax card to take the reading of the burette. And now we will remove the bubble. We will remove the air bubble from this by just letting some liquid out, so that it passes through the nozzle. You have to make sure there is no air bubble. So this, I have removed the air bubble. You can try different ways. Let the liquid out slowly, then a little fast. You'll learn with practice. So once the air bubble is out, now since there was an air bubble, I need to take the reading again. The reading has to be taken after removing the funnel and removing the air bubble from the nozzle below. The reading is 21.6. The lower meniscus is seen for colorless liquids, and for colored liquids, upper meniscus is to be checked. Next step is to wash this titration flask, a conical flask. This is a conical flask, and since we do titration in this, we call it a titration flask. Remember, this is not to be rinsed, simply washed with water. And this is a pipette. This is a pipette. A pipette is basically a glass tube with the bulb here in the center, and on the bulb is written the volume of the pipette, that is 10 ml, and you can see there is a mark. There is a graduation here. There is a graduation at this point. Till here, when I suck in the liquid, till here this is going to be 10 ml. So pipette is a more accurate measure of volumes in comparison to graduated cylinders. So I am simply going to dip this pipette into this oxalic acid solution and suck in some liquid. Suck in some liquid. This is a pipette pump and we have a screw here. I'll move the screw to let some liquid in. Now this much liquid taken in and I'm going to again swirl it inside. So I'm going to just let this liquid in through the pipette, through the entire pipette, so as to coat the inner walls with the liquid nicely. Swirl it around, rotate it like this, and then discard this liquid into the sink. Discard this liquid. This is rinsing of the pipette using oxalic acid solution. And now I am going to fill this pipette with the oxalic acid solution so that the lower meniscus, see I'm moving this screw and till the lower meniscus matches with this mark. जहाँ से दिखाना हो ना mark. So children, just see, I am going to set it till the lower meniscus is just touching the mark, right? And pour this liquid into the titration flask. I'll pour this liquid into the titration flask. And remember not to blow out any liquid, just touch it twice, thrice at the bottom of the flask so that any liquid droplet that comes out can, and then we leave it. So this is 10 ml of oxalic acid, and here we have in the burette sodium hydroxide. I'm going to add 1 drop of phenolphthalein to this. 1 drop of phenolphthalein is added. 1 or 2 drops of phenolphthalein, the indicated, and now I'll start doing the titration. So for titration, I'll be adding drop by drop liquid from here into the titration flask till the end point is reached. Now what is end point? Here I have an acid and phenolphthalein is an indicator which is colorless in an acidic medium, but when the medium here becomes basic, this will turn its color to pink. So indicator means a substance which can show a change in its color with pH changes, sharp changes in color. Okay, so I start the liquid out drop by drop and I keep swirling. So what you need to understand is we could have used a beaker also instead of a conical flask or a titration flask. So why do we specifically use a conical flask for this purpose? Because this helps us to swirl the flask more easily instead of using a beaker. So make sure that no droplets are sticking to the walls of the titration flask. The drops directly fall into the conical flask and no drop goes waste. So you have to note down the first drop that brings in a permanent pink color. So the color has changed to permanent pink. We can consider this to be our first rough reading, and the color can be checked more easily against a white tile. Against a white tile, the color will be seen more clearly. So let us see the reading. This is the reading. The reading is 27.2. Right? And the first permanent pink color is what our endpoint is. And the color is seen against a white tile so that the color is clearly visible. If I keep it against any other background, the color may not be very clearly visible. Right? So just to make sure, to check the endpoint, we use a glazed tile, a white tile. So now we are going to discard this. How do we calculate the volume used? The final reading minus the initial reading is going to tell us the volume used, and I'm going to simply discard the contents of the titration flask from the first experiment and rinse it with water. Just simply wash it with water, and this is ready for the next reading. For the next reading, again I pipette out 10 ml of oxalic acid into this, and this time this 27.2 will become my initial reading, and again start the titration, again take a new reading, and this way I have to take 3 concordant readings. And concordant readings mean 3 readings which should not differ by more than 0.05. So I'm explaining the theory of this experiment along with this. Stay tuned. Now let us discuss the theory of this acid-base titration. So I'll be giving you first a rough insight into what we are doing. We have a solution of oxalic acid. So I'm just giving you a quick overview. We have an oxalic acid solution and we have a sodium hydroxide solution. This was taken in the burette, and in this we calculated VML using the burette reading. And then we have an oxalic acid solution which is a standard solution of oxalic acid, that is 1/10 molar oxalic acid solution was prepared and used for titrating this solution. Now you have to understand that sodium hydroxide solution is an unknown solution. Unknown solution means we do not know the concentration of the solution, whereas oxalic acid solution that we're using in this titration is a standard solution. Now, what is a standard solution? A standard solution is the one whose concentration is known. So you need to understand that oxalic acid is a secondary, is a primary standard. Oxalic acid is a primary standard. A primary standard is the one whose standard solution can be prepared by direct weighing. Now, what is the meaning of standard solution can be prepared by direct weighing? Let us say I want to prepare 1/10 molar solution of oxalic acid, right? So to prepare 1/10 molar solution, what quantity of oxalic acid needs to be taken? We can calculate 1/10 molarity is equal to given weight upon molecular weight of oxalic acid into the volume that we want to make. Let us say we want to make 100 ml of oxalic acid solution into 1000. I've simply used the formula. The formula for molarity is number of moles upon VML into 1000, where number of moles can be further substituted as given weight upon molecular weight, right? So we have substituted, this is what we need to calculate. This is the molecular weight, this is VML, 100 ml solution needs to be prepared. In case you want to prepare 250 ml solution, then instead of 100 ml, we can take here 250 ml or whatever is the volume of solution that needs to be prepared, we take that volume here. And doing this calculation, we will be calculating the weight of oxalic acid that needs to be taken. So if I cancel this, I get W is equal to 1.26 gram. So using the analytical balance as discussed in another experiment that I've uploaded, we will be weighing 1.26 gram of oxalic acid and then make its standard solution. How do we make standard solution of oxalic acid? We're going to take a volumetric flask. A volumetric flask. To this, we add 1.26 gram of oxalic acid, which is weighed using an analytical balance. And to this, water will be added up to this graduation. This is a 100 ml volumetric flask, and water is added till it reaches this graduation mark, and we just shake the bottle and we get a standard solution. To get a greater detail of the experimental part, you can just watch a video. I will add the link of that. It is an experiment regarding making standard solution of more salt.
So instead of more salt, we can take oxalic acid. The procedure remains the same, right? Now, once the oxalic acid solution has been made and it is a primary standard, which means when I add 1.26 gram of oxalic acid, make the total volume of solution to 100 ml, the concentration of the solution that results is going to be 0.1 molar. Now, what does a secondary standard suggest? A secondary standard means a solution whose standard solution cannot be prepared by direct weighing. What does that mean? Let us say I want to make 100 ml 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide solution, right? So if I do the calculation, 0.1 molar is going to be W upon MW into VML in 2000. So the molecular weight of sodium hydroxide is 40. If I substitute all this, I get W to be equal to 0.4 gram. So to make 100 ml solution, I need to be taking this much of sodium hydroxide. Now, if I weigh 0.4 gram, and since sodium hydroxide is a very highly hygroscopic substance, that means the moment you're going to open sodium hydroxide uh, bottle and you will take the pellets out to weigh on a watch glass, solid sodium hydroxide comes in the form of white colored pellets. So the moment you put these pellets on a watch glass to weigh, they start absorbing moisture and carbon dioxide from the surrounding, which means the weight that you are taking as 0.4 gram is not just sodium hydroxide. This weight also includes the water and some carbon dioxide which has been absorbed from the surrounding. So actually 0.4 gram of this measured quantity will be less than 0.4 gram of sodium hydroxide. Why? Because this 0.4 gram is going to include some water also. So now when I add 100 ml water to it, the solution that gets formed is going to have concentration less than 0.1 molar, which means the effort to make 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide solution directly by direct weighing and simply adding water is not going to yield exact concentration. So all such substances which are hygroscopic or which cannot be obtained in pure form, these substances are called secondary standards because their standard solutions, that is solutions of a certain specific concentration, cannot be prepared by direct weighing. We can make an approximate concentration solution and then standardize it using some primary standard. So these terms are required for Viva and can even be asked at the competitive level in a theory exam. Okay, once we know these terms, the next concept is what is the theory of the reaction? Now we have a conical flask which is also called as a titration flask because titration is done in this. Let us say I take in this using a pipette, I have taken 10 ml of 0.1 molar oxalic acid solution. Please try and understand what is happening in this titration and what is the theory behind this. 10 ml of 0.1 molar oxalic acid means molarity is equal to N upon V ml in 2000, which means the number of moles of oxalic acid that I've taken here are M into V ml upon 1000. That is, molarity is 0.1. 10 ml. This 10 ml has been measured using a pipette. So 0.1 into 10 upon 1000, that is 0.001 mole of oxalic acid has been taken. So in this container, I have 0.001 mole of oxalic acid. So if we look at the equation that describes the reaction between oxalic acid and sodium hydroxide, the equation goes like this: Na2C2O4 plus 2 water, which means for each mole of oxalic acid, we need 2 moles of sodium hydroxide, right? So using a burette, we are going to let in sodium hydroxide from this burette. Sodium hydroxide drop by drop is going to be added. Okay, here you have 0.01 mole of oxalic acid, and oxalic acid, remember, is a weak acid which is partially ionized to release some H plus ions. It's a weak acid means if we have 0.001 mole of oxalic acid, we're going to have much less than 0.001 mole of H plus ions in this burette due to ionization of oxalic acid. If it was a strong acid, the strong acids ionize completely. Let us say we have a strong acid such as HCl. So अगर strong acids हो, तो 0.001 mole of a strong acid undergoes complete ionization and produces 0.001 mole of H plus and 0.001 mole of chloride ion, right? But a weak acid only ionizes partially and releases much less quantity of H plus ions. So how does the reaction occur? When you add sodium hydroxide from here, so in order to completely neutralize, to undergo a complete reaction with this oxalic acid, we would need 0.002 moles of sodium hydroxide. So as you keep on adding sodium hydroxide from here, drop by drop, slowly this oxalic acid keeps getting neutralized. Initially, the medium of this solution is acidic, that means pH is going to be less than 7, and phenolphthalein is the indicator we are using, and phenolphthalein in acidic medium shows colorless color, means no color. Phenolphthalein is colorless, it shows no color. So we had oxalic acid here, we added 1 drop of indicator phenolphthalein. It is colorless in acidic medium. As sodium hydroxide is added drop by drop, small amount of oxalic acid keeps getting neutralized. This H plus keeps getting neutralized. More of H plus keeps getting generated from here. And a stage is reached where for this 0.001 mole of oxalic acid, we have already added 0.002 mole of sodium hydroxide. That means the reaction gets completed. The reaction gets completed, and till this stage, the volume of sodium hydroxide that gets used, we call this as the equivalence point. Equivalence point means where the number of moles of oxalic acid will be completely neutralized by sodium hydroxide and the pH will become 7. Now, 1 more drop of sodium hydroxide into this beaker is going to create alkaline medium, because oxalic acid has already been neutralized by now. Neutralization has been attained, equivalence point has been reached. So 1 single drop of sodium hydroxide is going to make this solution alkaline, and in alkaline medium, phenolphthalein becomes pink. So phenolphthalein turns pink in color. So this is the visible endpoint. This is the endpoint. Endpoint comes very, very close to equivalence point, just 1 ahead. So it is that point, endpoint is that place where the neutralization process becomes visible by a change in color of the indicator. Okay, so at this stage, we will be taking down the reading of the burette, and that will tell us about the volume of sodium hydroxide that was used. So once you know the volume of sodium hydroxide. See, the burette reading now, burette reading means you know the volume of sodium hydroxide used, gives volume of sodium hydroxide used for the titration, and pipetted volume, pipette volume is the volume of oxalic acid taken. And since oxalic acid is a standard solution, its concentration we already know. So we are simply going to use the formula M1V1N1 is equal to M2 V2 upon N2. This is molarity of oxalic acid, 0.1 molar. This is volume of oxalic acid, the one which we took using a pipette. We know this volume, this is 10 ml. This is the coefficient of oxalic acid in the balanced equation, which is 1. So we will put this as 1. This molarity is unknown. Sodium hydroxide is an unknown solution, which means we do not know its concentration. So this molarity is what we need to calculate. Volume of sodium hydroxide is going to be known from the burette reading, and N2 is the coefficient of sodium hydroxide in the balanced equation. Which balanced equation? The equation involving this neutralization reaction here. Right? So using this, we are going to complete our calculation, and we'll get to know this molarity, that is molarity of sodium hydroxide. So how to write this systematically? I'm giving you instructions. So how to systematically write this experiment? On the left-hand side page, you will start with writing the aim to prepare 250 ml of M by 10 oxalic acid solution, and then determine molarity and strength of a given solution of sodium hydroxide. So for us, this is a standard solution. We are preparing a standard solution because its concentration is known to us, and this is the solution of unknown concentration. This can be any quantity. It can be 100 ml, it can be 250 ml, depending upon what instructions you've received in your respective classes. Then you will write down the apparatus. Apparatus is all that you've used for the experiment. Then chemicals required, and this is the molecular equation. This is the molecular equation, the equation according to which the reaction will take place. All this to be written on the left hand side. Indicator for the reaction is phenolphthalein, and phenolphthalein changes color with pH. In acidic medium, it is colorless, and in alkaline medium, it is pink. Since in the titration flask, we are taking oxalic acid, phenolphthalein in oxalic acid is colorless, and in basic medium, it is pink. Initially, in the titration flask, we have only oxalic acid, so initial color is colorless. And after neutralization has been reached, 1 extra drop of sodium hydroxide into this makes the solution here basic. So phenolphthalein becomes pink in color. So the end point is going to be colorless to permanent pink. Now, next you will write down observations. All this to be written on the left hand side with pencil, not to use pen on left hand side. Solution in burette is going to be sodium hydroxide. Solution in titration flask will be 1 by 10 molar oxalic acid. 1 by 10 molar or M by 10 oxalic acid. So then you will be making the observation table. Under observation table, remember initial reading, first the serial number column, initial reading, final reading, and then volume used. Remember, ml is to be written only in the last column, that is volume used, because this initial reading and final reading are just telling you the point where the reading is being taken. Right? A burette does not tell us the total volume inside the burette. So let us say this is how the burette is graduated from 0 to 50. So if you have a liquid up to this level, let us say this is the 25 mark, and you have poured liquid up to this level in the burette. So can we say what is the volume of liquid in the burette? No, because this is the 50 mark, this is the 0 mark, and there's liquid in all this space as well. So we cannot say what is the volume contained inside. So what is a burette used for? A burette is used for taking the initial reading. Let us say when I start the experiment, the initial reading is 25. I'll note it down as 25.00. I start drawing the liquid out from here as the titration begins. We keep drawing liquid out from here, adding it into the titration flask, and let us say the new reading comes out to be somewhere here. Say the new reading is 29.5. So what are we going to do? We will say the volume that has been drawn out is going to be 29.5 minus 25, that is 4.50 ml. Not to write ml with this, not to write ml with this, but this is ml because this is the volume of the liquid which has been drawn out. So be extra careful. This is only the initial reading, final reading. This column is volume used, so you're going to write ml only in this last column. Okay. Every reading is to be written to 2 decimals. Even if the reading is 0, you're going to write it as 0 0.00, 5.10, and so on. And also remember, the burette reading can be 5.10 or 5.15. Remember, the second decimal place cannot be any other number other than 0 or 5. Why? Because this is the insignificant figure. In a burette, the graduations are done like this. If this is 1, then we're going to have 1.2. This is 1.1, 1.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is going to be 2 mark. So let us suppose your reading comes somewhere here. And if I just magnify and show you this point, this is what this part is. This part is going to be, this value is going to read 1.1. This is going to read 1.2. So if I just draw 1.1 and 1.2 here, I magnify and show you, and the burette reading is this. This means it is less than half of the midway of these two values. So this reading will be written as 1.10. But supposing we had the reading like this. So this reading crosses the midway. So I'm going to write this reading as 1.15. Where this place is uncertain. This is a guesswork. अगर ये half से midway से कम है, so we are going to write it as 1.10. If it's more, we're going to write it as 1.15. Okay, only second decimal place can only be 0 or 5. It cannot be 1, 2, 3. Be careful about this. Now, once you take the readings, you have to take 4 or 5 readings you can take. Your first reading is a rough reading, means you're just taking a rough idea of somewhere around which point you will get your final answer. And then once you know approximately at which point you will get your final reading, then you can slow down after adding 4.5 ml volume. You can slow down and start adding drop by drop so that you don't miss on the end point. Right? This way you're going to take 3 readings. Your 3 readings should not differ by more than 0.05. Your 3 concordant readings to be taken. You will take readings till you get 3 concordant readings, means 3 readings which have a value similar to each other, not differing by more than plus minus 0.05. Also remember, all the content which is written here in green is not to be reported in your practical file. This is just for your information. We calculate the mean of these readings, mean of the 3 concordant readings from here, divide by 3. Whatever you get, reported to first decimal place and write plus minus 0.1. This is the error is being expressed as 5.0 plus minus 0.1 ml. Under calculations, the first calculation is to calculate weight of oxalic acid required to prepare the standard solution. Okay. So to check the experimental part of this, I have another video to make a standard solution of more salt. So you can just go through that video and to get an idea how to make the standard solution. The method, the procedure is the same, just that instead of more salt, here we're using oxalic acid. I'll just put the link below this video for your reference. Now, to calculate weight of oxalic acid required to prepare 250 ml M by 10 solution, first we'll calculate how much of oxalic acid we need to weigh using an analytical balance. Analytical balance video has also been uploaded. Again, for your reference, I'll put a link at the end. Now, the formula of molarity is weight upon molecular weight, VML and 1000. So simply substitute the values. This is the concentration we need to make. W is what we want to find out. Molecular mass of oxalic acid is 126 gram per mole and 250 ml is the volume we need to prepare. So simply do the substitutions and calculate the weight. The weight comes out to be 3.15 gram. Now, next is to calculate strength and molarity of sodium hydroxide solution. So for this, the molarity equation is M1V1 upon N1 is equal to M2V2 upon N2. M1 is the molarity of sodium hydroxide, the unknown solution. V1 is the volume in the burette reading, right? This is whatever burette reading you get, you're going to substitute here. 2 is the coefficient of sodium hydroxide in the balanced equation. This is the molarity of oxalic acid. This is volume of the pipette by which oxalic acid was measured, and this is the stoichiometric coefficient. We calculate molarity, and strength is molarity into molecular weight. So this molarity is multiplied with the molecular weight of sodium hydroxide, whose strength we need to calculate. Our aim of the experiment is calculate molarity and strength of an unknown solution of sodium. So finally, you're going to quote the result. The result given sodium hydroxide solution was found to be 0.04 molar with this is the strength, right? And on the right hand side page, you will be writing down the aim, procedure in your own words, general calculations and precautions. So what are general calculations? Everything is to be written in the same manner using the molarity equation M1V1 upon N1 is equal to M2V2 upon N2. This is the burette reading which you are going to assume as either X ml or say VML, and everything else that you know you will substitute. Calculate your answer in terms of X, right? So general calculations means we don't substitute the burette reading. We just assume it to be X and do the entire set of calculations. And finally, after we do our experiment, then the burette reading is substituted and we calculate the final result. 3 to 4 precautions, important precautions to be written, all this to be written on the right hand side page. So this is how we write the general calculation using the molarity formula. This is unknown concentration. Let us say the burette reading is X, stoichiometric coefficient 2 for sodium hydroxide. This is the molarity of oxalic acid that we know. Pipette volume also we know 10 ml. In case in your lab it is 15 ml or 20 ml, you will write accordingly. And this is the stoichiometric coefficient of oxalic acid. So substitute all this and calculate your answer as 2 by X. So once you've done the experiment, then on the left hand side, after the observations, you will do proper calculations as I explained earlier. So in that proper calculations, you will put here the burette reading. Let us say the burette reading is 5. And now you're going to calculate and quote your answer as discussed earlier. So this is how you're going to report your answer. I will also add to this the actual view of copy, PDF of a copy. So hope all this helps. Please like, share, and subscribe if this video is helpful. Thank you.
So this is a view of a copy, how to report your experiment in your practical file. So to determine strength and molarity of a given solution of sodium hydroxide, provided 0.1 molar oxalic acid. This is the aim, and then the procedure. You can write the procedure in your own words. This is the left hand side.